Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Rob.
And this is Ask Rob and Rob.
Yes, happy Tuesday morning. Thank you for joining us for another dose of property answers in the form of Ask Rob and Rob. As we do every week, two people have asked us some excellent questions, and we're going to give you some answers which may or may not be excellent. You can be the judge of that. So we'll get onto those questions in just a second. But before we do, Rob, how does someone ask a question of their own?
Well, they have two options. They can pick up the phone and call 013 808 00035, or you can go to thepropertyhub.net/ask and leave a question there. Both super simple, and that's exactly what Craig and Joe have done, and both are asking questions on the same topic, Rob. So let's have Craig first.
Hi, Rob and Rob. It's Craig here. Been listening to your podcasts for, the best part of the year now. Gone through all your history. It's inspired me to buy 4 buy-to-lets. I've got one question for you. With the new changes in stamp duty, as I'm a buy-to-let investor, if I sell my main residence and then buy a new house to live in, does the additional stamp duty affect me? That must affect all your buy-to-let investors, so it would be great to have some clarity and hear what your thoughts are. Thanks, bye.
Okay, well, let's get this episode off to a positive start because we've got some good news for you, Craig. If you are replacing your main residence, then you will not have to pay the extra 3% surcharge, even if you've got other properties at the same time. So the scenario here is you've got a number of buy-to-let properties and you've got the property that you live in yourself. If you sell your own property and buy another one to live in yourself, then you think that's an additional property because you own other properties at the same time. Therefore, you have to pay more. But no, because you are directly replacing the one home that you live in, you will not have to pay the extra. So there's your answer. If you're in a situation where you need to buy another home to live in before the sale of your existing one goes through, then you will have to pay the surcharge initially. But as long as you manage to get the sale of your first home through within 3 years, then you'll be able to claim a refund on that. So it is not anyone's favourite tax. Stamp duty is not a lot of fun, especially if you're buying expensive properties, but at least there is some good news for you there.
We do like good news. And hopefully we can give some more to Joe.
Hi, Rob and Rob. Joe here from Liverpool. I've been listening for around 3 months now, and I'm loving every show and taking advantage of the free courses. I'm getting to grips with strategies and setting my goals, but there is one question that I'm struggling to answer. I have around £65,000 worth of equity in my current home, but I'm looking to move up the property ladder in the coming months. I want to begin purchasing investment properties at the same time. Given the recent changes to tax relief and stamp duty, am I better to remortgage my existing home to access the equity to help fund my new home and keep my current property as my first buy-to-let? Or should I sell my existing property and then use some of the raised funds as my purchase deposit for my new home and use the remaining funds as deposit for my investment property? The benefit for the latter option will be a reduced level of stamp duty paid for my new home. Thanks in advance.
Thanks, Joe. And understandably, like Craig previously, and many other people who've asked us about stamp duty, you're looking at it and thinking, poof, I don't want to pay that. And that's understandable. Nobody likes paying tax. And when, and if we can, we should do our best to minimise our tax bill. But not at the expense of a good investment. So what do I mean by that? Well, a lot of people, and I find this when people are starting to get into property, get very obsessed with the tax and minimising their tax, when really they should be looking at maximising their investments. Because if you are going to get hit with a tax bill, it's probably because you've done, in most cases, something right and made a lot of money. And if you're making a lot of money, that's a good thing. I would say the general lesson here, Joe, because I think we've pretty much covered it with our answer to Craig, the big lesson here is focus on making the best investments possible and then look at the best way of reducing your tax bill, but not the other way round, because you may make poorer investment decisions. Now, that's not to say what you're doing is a poorer investment decision. That might be the right strategy. But take tax out the equation to begin with, look at the most effective strategy moving forward, and then bring tax into play afterwards. But put it in that order, because that will help you make better decisions.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. It is something that you see all the time. People quite rightly look at the tax that they're going to have to pay and think, do I have to do this? What way can I get around it? And that's the right way to think about it. But like Rob says, not straight away. Don't go work out the property investing strategy that means you pay the least tax, because the strategy that involves you paying the least tax is actually making a loss. You won't have to pay any tax if you do that. But that's not what anyone's going to want to set out to do. So thank you, Joe, for that question, because it allows us to not only get into the nitty gritty of stamp duty, which is important and pretty tricky to understand now there's this new surcharge, but also get into a principle which I think everyone could do with benefiting from, whether it's stamp duty, income tax, inheritance tax, or just about anything else. Don't let the tail wag the dog with that one.
Right, I think we're ending on a high, so let's call it a day. But we'll be back on Thursday with the Property Podcast, and of course, Ask Rob and Rob next week. So until then, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.